Alright. Third race is called Protoss. So we got Protoss, Terran, and Zerg. Terran are the humans, Zerg are the bugs, Zerg are the bugs. Protoss are the fancy ones. Alright, so I'll do this differently. I'll kind of build everything. Let me see here. Like I kinda this thing. Let's get a fake base out with some fake resources. That I don't really need. Alright, so the base makes workers. And the workers are probes. And the probes, you remember for supply in the upper right, the limited number of units, which you can't see here. But for supply, to increase my maximum units, these things build pylons. They're a structure. And what they do is they power buildings. Kind of like how Zerg have to place their buildings on creep. These guys have to place their buildings within a radius, like within a range of a pylon. So the pylons give maximum army units, and then they also power buildings nearby. So this is the building I make basic infantry out of. I should have some enemies. I'll make some Zerglings. I'll get a little Zerg base going, so I can pump out any units I need. Alright, so their most basic guy are called zealots. They melee. Oh, and another thing about all of this race only, they all have shields on top of a health bar. So you can see they have like double health bars because the blue health bar is a shield. And the shield regenerates over time when they're not taking damage, but their health does not. So it's like half of their health is like a shield that regenerates, half their health regens, kind of like that. So they have a little bit more health than other units would have, this whole race. Now, zealots are, they're melee, they're the most basic infantry compared to the marine and the zergling. It makes them. I'll have them fight. Why not? There. They lost their shields, but their health was relatively untouched before they killed them all. So that's the most basic infantry unit right there. I'll send them down here or something. Next up we have the Stalker. So these things are ranged, and hold on, let me get some more pad out. Why not? But sorry about all that.
Research complete.
So, these guys are ranged, they can shoot ground and air, and they do extra damage to tougher targets, like the Marauder or the Roach. They sort of counter those. Oh, some lag there. So I'll have them fight each other. And another thing they can do is they can actually teleport a short distance. So, if I click, bam, he teleports. And then he has a cooldown. Every 5 seconds he can do it again. They have that. So they can use a technique here where, like this weak one, I'll teleport him in the back. So then now they won't target him because they're out of range. Weak one, teleport him in the back. So they all kind of take turns that you can easily... This is called microing, when you manage the units while they're fighting. So I can micro them like that to allow them to take less damage, share the damage out. They killed those roaches, no problem. Those are what stalkers are. And now we have adepts. Adepts are ranged, but they don't shoot air. They're ground only. These are anti-light units, so they do extra damage to weak things like the Zerglings or other zealots, like the basic small things that are weak. They do extra damage to those. So let's see, I'll have them fight some Zerglings. Okay, they killed him, no problem. No problem. They also have an ability where they can send out like a hologram of themselves, and there's a timer on these holograms, and when the timer ends, the real units will teleport to where the holograms are. And other than that, the holograms don't do anything, but they can scout. So if I turn off vision here, like these things can go see into the darkness and also teleport over there or run away. They can use it to run away or to attack. So that's adepts. Then we have these are called sentries. Sentries are a caster unit. So they have abilities they cast. They're not strong fighters at all because they're not supposed to be. They're casters. And they have a number of abilities. They can put up a wall. There. They can put up walls like that, and that can block movement. Things can't walk through it. They have to go around. So, like, if there's a Zergling swarm, oops. The Zerglings will have to run around or will end up being trapped. So I'll have some adepts here. Simulate a little fight. So the Zerglings attack. These things put up force field walls, blocking the Zerglings. Zerglings got to run all the way around. They're being shot the whole time. Dead easy peasy. Now, another ability they do is they put these bubble shield. It's like a bubble thing. So what this does is any units inside the bubble take less damage. It's a defensive thing. It's a shield. So they can protect groups of units in a big fight. Their whole army takes less damage from ranged attacks. So that's pretty useful. And then their final ability is they can create, it's called hallucination, they can create a fake unit that looks like a real unit to the enemy. So I can choose any unit of my species. So for example, I could make a bunch of stop that. Make a couple fake stalkers that don't do any damage, and they have, I think, less health than the normal ones have. So I could send them into the base to scout. They provide vision, and they also trick the enemy. The enemy doesn't know that they're fakes unless they have a detector. So I can make the enemy think I have a bigger army than what I have, or make them think I have different kinds of units, so the enemy might try countering the wrong units. think these things have a... thought they had a limited lifespan. Yeah, they only last 43 seconds. They don't have a... they're not showing a timer above their head here. Send in a whole fake army to fake attack. They don't do any damage, but they pretend like they're attacking, so the enemy doesn't know. Unless the enemy looks at how much damage they're doing, in which they're seeing that 4 Zerglings are beating all these things. Yeah, so I could really... I'd use it with bigger units. I'd make them think that I have stronger units, like this big thing. So then they might be a little scared. Or I might spawn a flying unit as a scout.
I will comply. Understood.
Yeah. So that's what those are do. Those are sentries, they're casters. Get those down there.
Yes, Executor.
Then we got oh man, these things followed them all the way over. Get over there, Queens. Stop that. You stop that too, big guy. Spawn some things and stuff. Alright, so High Templars. These are our High Templars. They do not have, or maybe they do have an attack. They have an attack, but they're not for, they're another caster. So they're a caster, but they don't have as many abilities. They only have 2. Let me, there. So they can cast an ability where they're kind of an anti. They have 2 abilities, and one of them is anti-caster. So anything with energy, like this queen has energy, right? So they can cast an ability that drains all of the unit's energy out of it, and depending on how much energy it drained, was taken away, it deals 1 point of damage for every energy. So this queen has 200 energy, but it only has 175 health. So when it's all drained, it does 200 damage to it, and that kills it for sure. That's a thing it does, but that's not that's not its main use really. I don't think people really use that. What it's used for is its other ability here. Where is it? Here. So this like lightning storm here in a little area. What this does is it just does damage to everything inside of it. So it's great for taking on a swarm of weak things, a large group of weak things. So like all these Zerglings over here.
We shall stand against the darkness.
Oh, they died. Yeah, yeah. They can't really be the things to take the damage. Let me get some zealots to tank for them. Get some more Zerglings out. Alright, let's try this. Look at that. Bam, they're all dead. All the Zerglings died from that real quick. I can do it again. Alright, so Zealots are gonna tank it. These guys. Here we go. Bam, bam, bam. All the Zerglings just die. A little lag there. So that's what High Templars do. Then we have the last infantry unit, Dark Templars. These things, as you can probably notice, are invisible. They're invisible all the time, non-stop. They melee, and they do a lot of melee damage. And they also, I think, have a short-range teleport, kind of like the Stalkers do, but a longer cooldown. So these guys, if the enemy doesn't have detection, they can go in and they can do a lot of damage. That's about it. They're a cloaking unit. They're strong when the enemy doesn't have a way to see them. Get some more Zerglings ready. Heal those guys up. Alright. So, that was the last one thing we made here. And then there's one final unit is that both High Templars and Dark Templars in pairs of 2, they can, so two High Templars can fuse together like that, and they will turn into a big guy called an Archon. These things have, yeah, they have a lot more health, but they don't have any abilities, but they're really strong units. They're like the highest end, one of the higher end ground units. So like these guys, Dark Templars can do it too. I wonder if they can do it together. Yeah, a Dark Templar and a High Templar can fuse together. Yeah. So the Dark Templars and High Templars can pair up and turn into one big unit. That are, they're really strong against biological, like this. Oh, they actually lost too many Zerglings.
Our allies' base is under attack.
But, yeah, that's a thing. Next up is, I'll do ground vehicles. Or, like, vehicles, kinda, I guess. I don't know. It's kinda weird. So, this is a robotics facility, and they can make Immortals. Immortals are basically tanks. They can do a lot of damage to armored things like roaches. So they're bad against groups, swarms. But they're good against tanky enemies. And they also have a lot of... They don't really have a lot of health alone, but they have an ability where when they take damage, they put a shield on themselves that allows them to take a little bit extra damage. So I'll have a Zergling go whack him. Oh, Zergling died. Have Zerglings go whack him. Bam. So now you can see that shield on him is real short, but that allows them to survive a lot. So like these roaches, let me get some more roaches. Roaches versus these things. That one doesn't have a shield, because it was just in a fight. Yeah, they're destroying the roaches. These things are tough tanks that can only shoot ground. Now these guys, let's see, the next ones. Colossi. Colossus. Or Colossi, plural. These are units that can move up and down cliffs. They're like giant spider leg things. They can move up and down cliffs. And their attack is very unique. They attack in like a wide line kind of thing. So, if I send in a bunch of Zerglings, or anything really, let me just get more units out here. Alright, so a bunch of Zerglings go in. These things, they attack in a wide line. So they hit multiple guys with every attack, and with their wide line attack. So they're real good at taking out groups. You're not going to have that. They're not the tanks, really. They have a decent amount of health, but they're not meant to take the damage. So they'd sit in the back line, and they have long range. So they do well. And units that go in a line like that, like how they naturally, anything ranged naturally lines up as they shoot. These guys attack in a wide line, so they're good for that. go down there. Then we have disruptors. Disruptors are another unit that's good for fighting groups. They send out like a hologram of themselves, and this no, it's not. It's kind of like a hologram, but this attack blows up. It's a bomb. So, let's see here. Send their bomb in. That, bam. It hit them and, oh man, I don't know why all these guys are getting in there. Don't do that. I'm trying to just do it with these ones. I have them just stand there. So they send the bomb in. The bomb goes in there and blows up on contact. Bam. They just kill a whole group instantly. Like that. Yep. So that's what these things are. That's all they do, really. They shoot out bombs that do a lot of damage. Then we have, so there's actually some air units that come out of this thing. One is an observer. It's the detector for the Protoss, this species. It can see invisible things, and it also can turn off vision here. So like, it can lock down, making it unable to move, but it increases its vision range. You can kind of see that in the upper right here. So yeah, it's also invisible itself. You can see it's invisible all the time. So it can freely like scout in the enemy's base if they don't have detection to stop it. So that's pretty useful. Other than that, it doesn't do anything. It's just a detector that's invisible. Really good scout. Now the other unit this thing pumps out is a warp prism, which is basically a transport ship like the medevac was for the humans. So it can pick up units. I'll come pick some up here. And go ahead and transport them somewhere. Like that. He's just running off. Yeah, it can transport units. And also, another thing it can do is it can lock down like this. It can lock down, which makes it unable to move. But it acts as a pylon, like it has a little energy field here. You can see it. Just like a pylon. And I'll show you what that's used for here in a second. So, what that's used for is, as the Protoss, you can get an upgrade for your basic infantry building here, and you can make them change. Instead of the building the unit inside of itself and pumping the unit out, what it can do is it can warp the unit in anywhere there's pylon power. So like there's pylon energy all the way out here, these units can start being made all the way out here. And it takes them some time, just like it takes some time to be built in the thing, but because I'm in an arena, they're instant build. But yeah, these guys get built anywhere there's a pylon power. So like, as I can go build a pylon somewhere, like over by the enemy's base, and I can start warping in units over there next to the enemy. Now, the transport ship, because it is a pylon, it acts like a pylon, I can have it locked down, and then I can warp units in underneath it. So it's sort of like a, yeah, it's for that purpose of warping in units. So that's a pretty cool thing the Protoss only can do. Teleport their units in around the map. Now, let's see, the next thing is flying air units. Now, the Protoss have, I need two. The Protoss have some of the strongest air units in the game. The most basic one is a Phoenix. It can only attack other air units, but it has an ability where it can lift a unit up into the sky. so that its buddies can attack the unit. So like, for example, one of them can lift that unit up, and then the other can attack it. But while they're on the ground, they can't do those units. They can't shoot the ground units, but they can pick them up and shoot them. Pick them up, shoot them. Pick them up, and his buddy shoots it. So they can do that, and they're pretty mobile units. And a useful thing is they can shoot while they move. So see, they're constantly moving, and they can shoot while they move. That's the thing they can do. So yeah, sort of the basic air unit they have. And then there's this is another detector. Is it a detector? It should be a detector. Maybe it's not. They changed that. Okay, it's a detector in a different game mode. It's not a detector. Never mind. This is an air caster. And what this can do is it can throw this ability on the enemies, which allows it to have vision of the enemies. So all these units that have this weird symbol above them, the enemy, like the Protoss team here, this team, I can see everything that these units are seeing until that goes away off of them. That's an ability it has. Then another ability it has is to put down this trap on the ground. So it puts these traps that are invisible, so the enemy can't see them without detectors. And then what the trap does is if the unit walks into it, the units, any units in that range, are frozen. They're just frozen in time. They can't be attacked. They can't attack or be hurt or anything. They're just kind of like taken out of the game completely for that time. They're just put away. That's what these traps do. So yeah, they're like little landmines that take units out of the game. And its third ability is just, normally this thing cannot attack at all. But it has an ability you can turn on where it can use, it drains its energy and allows it to attack. So it can attack if you use up at the cost of its energy. Zap zap. So yeah, that's an air caster. Then we have the Void Ray. This is a unit that it doesn't have any ability. It does have an ability, but it's just it gives it more damage for a certain amount of time. But how it works is it charges up. It does more damage the longer it's shooting. So you can see its lasers are skinny at first, and over time, oh, I guess those guys weren't enough. Get some roaches. So, the lasers are skinny at first, and over time, the lasers will get bigger. Unless, maybe they don't in this game mode. Oh. I think I'm thinking of something else then. That would be how it worked in a different game mode I'm getting it mixed up with. Never mind. Alright, I guess they just shoot lasers and then they have an ability that lets them do more damage. It's not as complicated. It's that complex in a different game mode I was playing. Where like the longer they're shooting, the more damage they do. Then they have these they're long range. They can shoot air and they can shoot ground, but oh no, they're pretty powerful. They do a lot of damage, but they don't have a lot of health. So I'll send these mutalisks in. Oh, I think they do a lot of damage to weaker things. Not doing so hot against these ones. But yeah, these guys are good for, because of their very long range, they're good for taking out enemies who have really good defense. And these things can outrange the defense. basically, is what that's for. Stop that. Alright, put them away. And then their last air unit is a carrier. Carriers are kind of like the carrier themselves don't have any attacks, but what they do is they build little tiny ships inside of them, and they send these ships out to attack enemies when enemies are nearby. So I'll send some roaches in here so you can watch. And here they are. A little swarm of little mini fighters that the carrier fights with. Other than that, it just builds more of the ships after they get killed. It doesn't do any damage itself. It can attack air and ground with the little fighters. These are very strong units in the game. They're fun too. Send 6 in. The enemy doesn't really... If the enemy spends their time fighting these little interceptors, they're never going to get anywhere. The enemy has to try and kill the carrier themselves. Let's see if I can do it. Kill one of them. They have a decent chunk of health, so I don't... Nah, they're not going to kill it. Yeah, they're a tough unit. They're very strong. Especially when you get a nice handful of them. Alright, I think that's all of the units. Oh, except for I didn't do a mothership. Mothership can be made at one of these main bases, and it's very expensive. You can only make one of them. So this giant thing has abilities it can cast, and it's also a very big unit. I don't like it. It doesn't do a lot of damage. Its attack is kind of weak, but what it does is it makes any nearby units on its side invisible. So, bam, the entire army is now invisible except for the mothership. Also, it has 2 abilities it can do. One is it puts this bubble down, and after a few seconds the bubble activates, and it slows any units inside of it. Really big area. Yeah, so that's its one ability, and then its other ability is it can warp in, it can basically teleport a group of units, like all of these that fit within this bubble, to it. So I can go bam, and all of them teleport over here. So you can teleport your whole army to wherever the mothership is. But the mothership does have energy, so you can only do that so often. Because there's only so much energy the mothership has. You have to wait for it to cool down. Yeah. As far as buildings go, the Protoss have a turret they can put out. This turret shoots air and ground, and the turret is also a detector. So let me send in some Zerglings to fight it. Bam, 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 bam. Hey. Stop fighting, Tempest. Get out of there. Yeah. They're fighting. They can fight these things. They're a defensive turret. And then another building that combos with them is a thing called a shield gen. Shield battery. So what a shield battery does is it recharges the shields, since all Protoss have shields, all buildings and units. It recharges the shields of anything with low shields nearby it. So, like, these turrets were quickly filled right back up with their health. And also, if there's, like, a big fight, in the middle of the fight, the shield batteries they're just constantly healing the shields of the turrets. As much as the energy they have to give for it, anyway. So they can survive a lot more, as well as just... Let me kill the shield, or the turrets here real quick. Alright, once those are dead. So, these shield batteries alone, for example, let me get some zealots out. Oh yeah, I gotta warp them in. Warp in some zealots. So these 3 guys can survive a lot more damage with some shield batteries nearby. They would not be able to beat these many Zerglings normally. Let me see. I don't. Maybe they still can't. Oh yeah, they're surviving. Oh, the shield batteries ran out of energy. Otherwise, they would have lived. No, stop it, Zerglings. But yeah, they can tank. You can have your units tank a lot more health if they're nearby the structure that you build. And yeah, I think that's all there is to their buildings. Pylons give supply and power the buildings. So if like the enemy kills the pylon that's nearby these structures, all the buildings that are powered by the pylon will shut down. You can see how these 2 are off and this one's still on because it's within power of this other pylon here. Yeah, so then I'd have to warp in a new pylon to power the building again, like that. So let me
We await.
simulate a giant fight, why not, or something. With carriers. And the enemy can have, I don't know. How's that looking? That's A force. Yeah, I'll try this. So the Protoss have a bunch of carriers, some stalkers, the teleporting ones, and a bunch of zealots. Get them in position. And these guys just they have some ranged ones, some roaches, some Zerglings, a few Zerglings, and a few Banelings. There. I'll have them fight. I could also have thrown in a few supports. Here, I'll amp up some of the Zerglings units. Put some shields, maybe some walls. Yeah, that's probably enough.